Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's onboarding session at Tara AI. We're really excited to share with you some of the modes that define Tara, as well as best practices to enable a high shipping engineering culture. So in terms of why Tara exists and why we created Tara in the first place, it was primarily because we felt the frustration from existing product development platforms that were just not easy to use, had simple interfaces, or were really enabling the shipping culture at companies. And so where it all begins at Tara is at home. So in home, once you've actually defined your sprint, and once you've created certain requirements, you'll be able to see a focus mode where you can see what your stats are in terms of the current sprint, how your team is doing or performing during the sprint. And then you can also see certain tasks that have been assigned to you and change the status. And so why don't we begin in sprint, because that's typically where you can start creating certain aspects of your sprint. So it really all starts in settings. So right here, this icon that you see here is where you click through on the sprint page. And what you can do is you can define a recurring sprint end time. So where we start off with is, so why do teams use sprints in particular? Sprints are a time-defined period where you hope to achieve a certain goal. So this goal could be to release a certain feature, to release an MVP of your product, or to release version 2 of your product. And so with that specific goal set in mind, what you can now do is you can set recurring durations, whether they are for 2 weeks or for 1 week. So once you set your duration, you can also set an end time at which your sprints will roll over. So basically what that means is that at that specific time, let's say you decide that it's a Friday at 5 p.m., you can set that. And then what you can also do is set a time zone. And so since we're in Pacific time zone, I'm just going to go ahead and set that. But just so you know, is once you actually start using the platform, it automatically sets your time zone for your current time. So you actually don't even need to change the time zone. But let's say you're traveling, or you want to, or you are separate from your team and you want to make sure that the right time zone is being set, you can do so in this dropdown. Okay. And then the other thing you can also do is you can set what you'd like to do with incomplete tasks. So you can either move them to a new sprint, or you can return them to the work drawer, which is the backlog. And so what that means is when tasks do not get completed within a certain sprint, they will automatically move into a new sprint, or you can have them returned back to the backlog because you'd like them to be reprioritized. So now let's talk about some of the concepts around Tara and what the interface essentially enables. So we designed 2.0 in particular with data entry as well as productivity in mind. What that means is we really wanted to make sure that you could very quickly enter a group of tasks. So once a task is entered in the specific text box, you'll actually see it in the tasks dropdown. So this section and this area is called the work drawer. So what the work drawer does is it basically allows you to describe certain tasks and add them into this tasks dropdown. But then you can also create requirements, and requirements are basically docs, but then they're also groups of tasks. So once you have this folder structure enabled, and you can easily create a folder structure just by adding your first requirement and then grouping tasks under those requirements. I can also move tasks into a requirement. So if I wanted to move a specific task right here and move it into the SEO requirement, I can do that too. So let's say that right now this actually assumes a marketing project and sets of marketing projects. So it looks like there's multiple different initiatives currently running. And what we've done as a team is we've basically created specific sets of tasks, but then I've also added them into these folders. So let's talk a little bit about once you've set up your sprint, then what you can do is sprints basically automatically complete at a given set of time. And once they automatically complete, what also happens is that with the completion rates, you can start to see how your team is doing from an effort standpoint. So how much effort did you actually plan for the specific sprint? And then within that specific set of effort, what percentage did you complete?
So for that, you just need to click on the sprint and you'll start to see your sprint insights. So insights, so let's actually look at our current sprint and what kind of insights we can see. Here I can see that, okay, 16 out of 25 of tasks are in progress and an effort of 40 is currently in doing state. We have 13 in to-do state and 6 in done state. So what this allows you to do is it basically allows you to see what you've planned for the specific sprint and then the different states that these tasks are in. And it also means that you can start to surface blockers. So if you see some team members, let's say they're stuck on a task for a long time, then you might want to hop in and ask, do you need some help? The other thing that you can do is when you go into progress, you can also start to see those states. What are tasks that are still yet to be picked up, what tasks are in doing state, and then what's been done. Now, what we recommend is to compare to the left, because the left is column basically shows specifically what the effort that was estimated for the task before your team members started to embark or to work on the task. And so then you can see that, okay, clearly for an onboarding video, we've set an effort of 14. And this, and of course, this can be hours, days, or story points.
So you can set up your effort in settings.
Once you set up your effort, then that's the same effort will apply to your workspace. But with these statuses, the other thing that you can do is if you're an engineering team, it becomes an even more powerful view, because once you've connected it or synced it to GitHub, you can actually start to see the commits as well as the open pull requests.
And from there, you can also see how what state the tasks are in terms of if there's a pull request that is blocked,
if it's been merged, which
automatically marks the task as done. And what that allows you to do is specifically and internally understand how your stack ranking overall in terms of your timeline for shipping. So I'm just going to show you a quick view. The way we do it internally is we've set up our departments into workspaces.
But what you can also do is set up teams. And so within teams, you can actually set up different departments, let's say marketing, engineering, operations, or you can also set up pods. So for example, if you have 3 to 4 pods in engineering that are working in different teams, you can also set that up in teams.
And that's very easy to do. You can just create a new team, and then what that will do is you can actually run parallel sprints and basically have parallel requirements as well. So what's really great about that is with requirements, then you'll have team-based requirements. So different teams will not be able to see each other's requirements unless you do want that.
Then what you do is you basically add the same people from one team into the next.
So let's see what an engineering progress page would look like once we've actually synced to GitHub.
So we use GitHub internally for our source control, and we've also synced it up to Slack. So what that does is once you've synced it up to GitHub, you can actually start to see the true status of the task in terms of what's happening inside Git. So here I can see that for certain tasks, pull request was opened. And then I can also see where PRs have been blocked. So if I'm an engineering manager, I'm the CTO, I can immediately start to see what the true status is of the task, and I don't have to log into GitHub to do so. And so here, seeing PR blocked, what's been merged in terms of, and just so you're aware, when a PR is merged, the task typically gets automatically marked as done. So I'll just quickly show how that works.
So here we can see that TaraBot has updated the status to done from doing. So this is one of our automation features available in premium. And what that does is once the task has already
been merged by an engineer, and you can also see the pull requests as well as the commits.
But once it's been merged by the engineer,
then you can immediately see that Tara has updated the status to done from doing.
Right.
Now let's look at what's in terms of PRs opened. That's basically once a pull request has already been opened for a given task. And so what that means is you can actually start to see that the task and specifically the PR most likely needs reviews.
And so what's great is within the specific task, if you click through, you can also click through into the specific PR right through the task. And so if I click in here, I can see
the specific PR and what's happening inside GitHub in terms of being open.
Okay, going back in here, let's now talk a little bit about
these sections, open PRs and commits. So once you've also set up your GitHub, the other thing you'll start to see is what are all the commits that are being made in terms of most recent. And then you can also see open pull requests. So what's been opened. Now, if you click that three dots, you can also see the assignee and who is pending review. And so this PR, it's been opened, but the two, so Bobby, our manager, as well as Said, our CTO, it's basically pending review by them in terms of this specific section. Then I can also see right here some stats on the PR. And so if I click through,
merging is blocked, and that's because the tests have failed here. But kind of being able to just see that very high level and also see some of the stats just in terms of commits, checks, and what's failed, what's passed. High level, you can see that just right here in these notes. You can also sort and see newest to oldest. And then you can also see the sprint load indicator. So we'll talk a little bit about the load indicator and how that works as well. Right. So
the load indicator is basically a function of understanding your team's overall velocity
and how much effort can they typically embark on or complete in a given sprint. So what Tara does is we designed Tara to be smart. And so the idea is that it actually looks, as you start using Tara, after your second sprint, you start to see in your third sprint that you can now, the system will now have an understanding of your overall total effort that's been embarked on, but then what's the recommended effort as well. So recommended effort basically stems from a running average. It basically looks at your last 3 completed sprints, and it's able to calculate what the recommended effort is. So if you've gone above your recommended effort,
what you'll see is, I'm just going to go back up and
go into sprint.
What you'll see here is that there will be a little bit of a warning light. And by the way, you can switch this off as well.
And what that does is
it switches it off at the bottom of the sprint column. But when it's on, you can see what the sprint overload is in total in terms of how much of the sprint you've overloaded. So it looks like we've overloaded it by 66 points and the recommended is 41. Okay, and then just one more thing to note is some of the quick shortcuts within each task. You can mark it as to do, doing, done. You can assign the effort right through here, and then you can also add an assignee. These are all new things that we've added to 2.0 because we wanted to make it even easier to update statuses on tasks. One other nifty feature that actually a lot of people don't know about is why this section is in orange. So the reason why this section is in orange is because these are the tasks that have gone above your load. And so these are the tasks that you should consider possibly rebalancing. And so rebalancing, that means that you either add them to the next sprint or you put them back into the backlog.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just command plus here. And so that's just me zooming in. And by the way, what's really great is once you've zoomed in, it's going to remember your zoom settings. So you can actually, let's say if you prefer to use it at 100%, great, but I like to use it at 110. I've seen some team members use it at 125. And so you can just hit Command plus on your MacBooks or Control plus on Windows, and you'll be able to zoom in and just see a larger canvas area. Okay, so talking a little bit about tasks and how you can edit as well as assign statuses. So you can assign status, update effort, add an assignee, and then you can also assign it to a requirement, and that's typically how you group overall. You can also add collaborators and add subtasks. And so once you've added a subtask, you can also assign a subtask. So when I add a subtask, it automatically will assign it to me. So testing subtasks. And so great, the task is automatically assigned to me, and so I can start to add a couple of subtasks as well, and I can mark them as done. So if I just click on that checklist over there, I'm all good. Now commenting. So
one other piece is that you can comment inside Tara and basically tag your teammates. So we'll show you a little bit more of define and requirements and how those work. But one thing and one area to note is that if I add a comment in here, and I won't because the assignee will get pinged, but if I did add a comment in here, what happens is that the person that's been assigned on the specific task, so Luciano will get pinged once I add a comment, and he'll get pinged on Slack, and he'll also get an email notification that I've added a comment. But it's a really good way of basically threading comments on certain tasks where you'd like to have a discussion.
The other thing you can also do is tag a team member. So with @mentions, basically you can just shift and then @ key. And once you've done the @mention, you can mention a teammate, and they will also receive a notification through Slack as well as a notification through email. So great. Now let's talk a little bit about the Git status. So in order to activate the actual Git statuses in the tasks, what you need to do is add the task ID to your GitHub branch name or the PR title or the commit message. So there's 3 ways to basically tag a task ID from Tara into GitHub. And so once you tag the task ID into your branch name, PR title, or your commit message, you'll actually be able to unlock statuses. And that really allows you to see whether a PR has been merged, whether it's blocked, what the overall status is. And you can see that in Sprint. Then you can also see it in progress as well. So let's now roll back and talk a bit. So yes, you can also copy a task URL. By the way, once you copy a task URL and you paste it and send it inside Slack, what immediately happens is that it gets unfurled. So you can also see a little more details about the task, and we'll show you a little bit more about some of the Slack magic that Tara offers. Okay, now some simple commands are things like invite. So you can create an invite link and send it to colleagues, and then you can also invite via email as well. Now, let's talk about define mode. Define is actually one of my personal favorite modes. And in fact, it's also how I like to create and edit tasks as well as edit requirements. So this is the larger view text editor. So what you can do in here is obviously you can create your docs just like you would in tools like tools like Google Docs. But what this does is that you have a central place for all of your documents that relate specifically to the given goals that you've set in your sprint. And so within these docs, you can basically create block quotes, code blocks. You can add images as well. So you can drag an image from any folder right in here. And then what you can also do is basically link specific text into let's say you want to link it to a Figma file, or you even want to link it to a Loom video. So what I can do is, in fact, I think I'm going to just go ahead and do that. Just click there and add the specific. There we go. What's that? So if teammates want to view the video that I've recorded of the bug, they should be able to do that. They should be able to do so. Then we also have activity. So just a note that you are able to view activity on the right side in terms of what's really happening and any updates your teammates may have made. All right. One other nifty thing I'd just add here is if you can see or show or hide your done tasks, and you can also show or hide the tasks that are in the sprints. By default, it hides tasks that are in sprints, and it also does not show, and it also shows done tasks by default, but you can decide to hide done tasks if you click there. So by default, you're seeing tasks that are already done. Yeah, and that about covers really just the high level pieces of the platform and the software. Now, one of the other core components you want to know and understand is that you can also sync this to GitLab. And basically the GitLab sync In order for, to pull up the instructions on how to do so, if you just click on connect, you'll start to see how the webhooks work and what you need to do in order to connect to GitLab. Now, the GitHub app install is
much, much more simpler, in fact, because it's a full-fledged app. And so what that means is once you've connected it, you just need to connect it at the workspace level, so at your org level, and then you need to connect it at the profile level. Now, with Slack, it's the same thing. So you connect it at the workspace level. So you connect your Slack workspace to your Tara workspace, and then from there, you connect your specific profile on Slack to your Tara profile. So just make sure that you're doing both those steps. If you would like to create tasks from Slack and have them show up in Tara, and then if you'd also like to specifically unfurl task URLs and links.
So I'm chatting with Eugene, our designer, and basically what we're doing is we're talking about a specific task inside Tara. So here's what's cool. If I paste the Tara task, and by the way, just make sure you've set up the app correctly. So once you've set it up specifically, then you'll start to also receive notifications, and we'll talk a bit about the notifications. But when when you specifically want to share a given task URL, so all you really need to do is go into Sprint. And when you have your task URL right here, copy, you can just paste it. And then, looks like it's pasting the link that I was, so just, there we go. I used the wrong shortcut on my mouse. There we go. So what will happen, and I'm not going to send this to Eugene because then he'll think I'm following up on this task, but basically whenever we do share tasks, this is what happens. You're able to unfurl them and see them unfurled here. And then you can view the task in Tara, or you can edit it. And seeing that just allows you to just get more context on the task and what the status is, as well as the effort. Now let's learn some of those Slack shortcuts in terms of actually adding a task. So with /Tara add, I can immediately add a task into my workspace. So I can give it just about any title, description, assignee, and status, effort, collaborators as well. Once I hit submit, it will show up in the work drawer inside Tara. And so what that does is when you're adding tasks on the fly and you're inside Slack and you don't want to lose your focus, you can go in and just click on /Tara add and start adding tasks. Now, the other thing that you can also do is you can convert a message into a task. So for example, I was just mentioning to Eugene, let's go ahead, create 2 tasks, one for pricing, thanks. All right. So what I can do is I can actually create the task from the message. So if I click there, what happens is that I again see the same modal, but it's gone ahead and added the specific text into the description. And that's pretty cool, right? Because it's, if you're having a message thread with someone from your team on Slack, you can actually go in and specifically convert that message into a task inside Tara. So there we have it. Let's now talk about notifications and how those work inside Slack. So one of the reporting notifications that we have is when a sprint completes. Now, sprints automatically complete inside Tara once you've specifically specified your end date, your timing, and seen the sprints rolling over. But what happens is that you basically get a summary of the overall effort completed. 52% of our last sprint's effort was completed. 9 out of 26 tasks are done. And then we're also seeing the PRs here. So 19 out of 22 pull requests were completed, and there were 133 commits that were also completed. So you can basically go in and view inside Tara, or you can also decide to action any of the specific comments or notifications that are coming in. So what I'm seeing here right now are notifications on tasks I've been mentioned in. So I might have been mentioned inside a requirement or inside a task. And if I've been mentioned, I'll receive a notification, which is nice. So it looks like Mateusz mentioned me, and then he also commented on this task.
So one thing to remember is that if you would like to basically just get updates on a specific task, what you can do is you can add yourself or that person as a collaborator. And once that person is added as a collaborator, they'll consistently receive updates on the task. And that means an email as well as inside of Slack.
There we have it. I'm seeing comment notifications, mentions, then also when a new requirement gets created inside of my team, I'm also receiving those notifications as well. Okay, and so commenting, mentions, as well as sprint notifications, those are the top 3 that you can expect to see inside the Tara app. All right, that about brings us to a close of today's onboarding webinar. Thank you so much for attending. We had a great time just showing you some of the functionality as well as what you can expect to achieve with Tara AI. So we're really excited that hopefully the software will help you get shit done and really start to accelerate your velocity as an engineering team, as a marketing team, or as an operations team.